I'm Garrett McQueen.
I'm Scott Blankenship.
Here in Studio B, and this is TRILLOQUY, true and real stories from the fringes of classical music. It feels good to be all cozy here in your basement. Got my cupcake here. It's very delicious. Thank you, Scott, for baking cupcakes.
Yeah, there's no ice left in it to jingle. So.
And all of your refrigerators and everything are unplugged.
Yep, all of the fridges, all the fermentation chambers, everything.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that somebody's not going to ring the doorbell and that won't go off. I have no idea.
Well, we'll just see.
Nobody comes by, so we should be good.
And we have Radar here with us today.
Yeah, everybody I know is here. So,
and we have a very special guest on this opus of TRILLOQUY, the newest member of the C24 team, and the newest member of our little clique here, Melissa Dundis. Thanks so much for being with us here on TRILLOQUY.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
It's fun to be here in Studio B because it feels a little more natural, you know, like we're really just hanging out and having fun. And we do have an agenda here, so this is a real opus of TRILLOQUY, but you know.
But that was the whole idea of the podcast, was to get people in, you know, feeling comfortable and having that real, true conversation.
You feel comfortable, Melissa?
I do.
Excellent.
I feel at ease.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome.
You know, we have a lot to talk about today, Melissa, you know, as far as your relationship with the guitar, your relationship with classical radio, public radio, and all of that sort of thing. But just first and foremost, I kind of want to know how you're feeling as a new Twin Cityer, a new St. Paulite.
Twin citizen.
Yeah, twin citizen. How long has it been for you now?
4 months.
4 months,
It was,
wow.
yeah.
How you feeling?
I feel good. You know, I like the Twin Cities. Everybody's been really welcoming and kind, and I've seen a lot of great music, and I just, yeah.
And you're from Omaha, just
Shout
like
out.
you, Scott.
Yep.
And I want to hear some Omaha and some KVNO banter, but you know, the first thing I kind of wanted to kind of bring up was, you know, the move itself, the physical part of, you know, packing up your life and putting it in a truck or whatever. I had moved around a lot, so you know, I went from Memphis to Los Angeles to, you know, Detroit to Knoxville and a lot of places in between, but you're from Omaha, and this was like you really doing it for the first time. Did that feel just so daunting?
I was so busy, and I had a lot of things to do in 1 month, but like
You had a month to get yourself together.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I had like 3 months to lead up.
I think I had 3 weeks. It was quick.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I had a small amount of time, and then like I could just see the process because I was in like this fast-paced mode that I get in, and everything's just moving too slow. I call them mini meltdowns. I probably had like 3, and I didn't know where it was coming from. I just knew I was stressed.
Okay.
You know,
Yep.
and then when I got here, it was creeping up. It was creeping up, and then, you know, after being here and you know, your family is just like, all right, bye.
Yeah.
You're just like, yeah, okay.
Talk to you later.
I'm in a different space.
Well, I'm sure there's somebody listening right now who doesn't quite know who you are. So how about you introduce yourself? Well, you know, you come from Omaha, but what's your job here at American Public Media, and what was your sort of professional journey toward this spot?
So I'm a national host / producer. I haven't done a ton of producing yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. Right? No, well, right now just some promos and stuff. So
yeah, but that counts. That's
writing
important.
spots and digging into Pro Tools, which
You
has
do
been
hit
fun.
the ground running here. They do get you working on stuff right away.
Yeah. So I'm just excited for what's to come. I'm on NPR, of course, on Saturday mornings, and I kind of have to fill in. I have 2 set shifts, and then they expect me to fill in wherever I need to.
I want to ask you about that. How do you feel about the fact that you could be called up at a moment's notice and say, yeah, you got to be in at midnight tonight?
Well, listen,
Bang.
because a part of what Julie told me even before you were hired was she said that the new host is, one of that person's main duties is to be the principal overnight sub.
Yeah.
So, of course, in my mind, I'm like, yes, finally, I can take a sick day without feeling guilty. But now that you're here, I don't want you to have to come in here in the middle of the night just because I don't feel like going to work,
Well, that's part of it, though.
But I would never call in
So-
just because I don't feel like it,
No,
obviously.
nobody does that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I knew that's what was going to happen. And sometimes she's getting a hold of someone else. Like she had someone come in on like a Sunday morning instead of me.
Oh, yeah, that was
and
me.
And then well, I'm talking about something more recent.
Okay.
But,
OT, okay.
But, well, no, later that week, one of the day hosts got sick.
Okay.
And so I think sometimes in their mind, they're like, if Ward or Kevin can do the overnight, then Melissa can pop in at 8 a.m. and fill in for, I don't know. I fill in a lot during the day for people that just need to.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
then,
good luck getting Ward to come in on an overnight. Yeah, lots of luck.
shout out to Ward.
Yeah, he's great.
Okay, well, Kevin always does. I'm surprised I haven't done more overnights yet, to be honest.
Oh, yeah?
I was all just getting myself psyched
I
up.
will
Well,
for
say
it.
because
And it
I'm dedicated to doing my shifts. I kind of have to hold the banner.
We for like the last 15 years, at least 13 that I've been here, we've always had a rock solid crew. I mean, the
It seems like it.
losses due to illness were few, especially overnight. Yeah.
Yeah. More sick people during the day.
What about getting back to your integration into Twin Cities life? Have you been to a meat raffle yet? Have you?
I don't know what that is.
What are we? Yeah, what are we even talking about? A meat raffle?
Okay,
Meat
so
raffle.
this was a new one on Me
I've been
Too.
to one before, but not here.
So, Garrett, you go to a bar, and if they have a meat raffle going on, you pay however much to get a raffle ticket. And if they come out and say, "Okay, we're going to draw for the 4 steaks or the pound of hamburger or whatever,"
Oh, so this is
And
not
it-
a gay bar.
and if they pull your, it could be.
It's. I thought he was talking about Polish festivals because that's
okay.
what they do at Polish festivals.
But yeah, that was a new one. And what differences did you notice arriving? What was the biggest thing to get used to here in the Twin Cities for you?
To get used to?
Yeah. Come on,
Gosh.
there was some culture shock, wasn't there?
I mean, I guess there's more people, but that's not shocking to me.
So Omaha was moving from Omaha was coming to a bigger city.
Yeah.
For you, okay.
I mean, I don't know if anything it shocked me. I've been to New York. I like the subways there. I think it's like fun and interesting to me.
Melissa is like, look, this ain't my first rodeo. Okay, this
no,
may be
I'm
my
just
first
saying,
meeting.
like
but-
shocking. I don't know. I didn't come here and I wasn't like, just like, whoa. I don't know. Nothing like that happened. I love that there's many things to choose from if you have a night off on a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have.
No, I think we just identified that I'm a dullard, and that it was more of a discovery for me than the youthful arrival that you had.
Okay, well, you're not going to kill my vibe today, so you need to keep it light as well, Scott. So you came from KVNO, shout out to them,
Yeah.
as the music director. With that experience, I'm curious to know what was, what you had in mind as you transitioned to this new role here at APM, as far as how you could, put your own spin on things, or how you can put forward your own philosophy about, what it means to do this job that we call hosting classical radio.
Yeah, I had like just more busy work kept piling up at my previous job, so I couldn't focus so much on
Busy
being-
work like what?
I was planning events for the radio station. Like I was doing our playlist. I hosted Monday through Friday, 1 to 4 p.m. So I was programming. I was a host. I ran our classical kids program. I would also produce art stories for our morning show. So that was 1 or 2 stories a week at that point. And then entering new music, listening to new music. I had to have an intern, so I had to carry on the tradition of training a student how to work in radio.
So hosting was just one part of your very busy job.
It eventually, and then I got this really great opportunity with this design branding company. And so then I took that on. So then I was in charge of like ordering swag and like, what should we get for
Oh,
as in
goodness.
t-shirts, and then
You must have made a
Plenty-
lot of money down there.
That's
No.
hilarious.
No, I didn't. But I just loved getting to have, I wear a lot of hats. I wore a lot of hats at that position. That's what I told people. But I was like, I really do mean it. And I was able to kind of decide where I wanted to go. And I was like, I really want to work on being a personality and producing. There just weren't enough people there. There were like 7 full-time people. So I was never going to be able to
I thought the same. You know,
do
like
what
you
I
were,
wanted to really do there. I'm like, I could make small changes. The logo, the rebranding was huge and it was exciting.
Yeah.
But my heart was like, I think you need to try, even though you're doing stuff here.
You just
So-
felt like for yourself there was even more that you could do.
Yeah.
you remember when you were talking about being at WUOT that you had your fingers on every part of the project. You just made it happen.
Yeah.
That was a lot like at KVNO.
Yeah, and that's-
whoever was producing it, you just made it happen.
But yeah, sometimes I'd have to help the audio engineer because my coworkers started having kids and they'd be gone so
nerve.
much. And then,
And
So,
that's
you
kind
know.
of the charm of like local public radio. And
is.
I do miss it a lot, but kind of, as you were saying, Melissa, there's just that feeling of needing to do more and to have even more impact,
Yeah.
how, and I know that, the job you have now, isn't, as multifaceted as what you were doing at KVNO, but I know you're trying to bring, more into it than just being behind the microphone. How about you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I just want to create more of a brand because now that I've been here for a little while and I understand more about social media and social media as a business tool. So I want to add that. And I just want it to be more creative and colorful and visual because I think that's huge today is like having a visual to go along with it.
That
And
and that's really I don't want to say revolutionary, but just something to think about the importance of a visual aspect to radio.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the perfect time to do it because Instagram is that creative.
Instagram
outlet.
is that girl, yeah.
Yeah. So, I want to get the listeners, the kids, and the parents involved and see how that can flourish. And I don't know, I guess kind of rethink the idea of this request show that I've been handed because that's
Yeah.
just a little outdated as
Yeah.
call or email me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you can't ask even an 11-year-old to email your request. No, tweet me your request or DM me your request or whatever.
Yeah,
that
and-
does have a much more contemporary sound to it, and really, that's what we got to be doing.
Yeah, but they still love hearing their name on the radio.
Of course.
As an adult, I would. I
Yeah.
would get excited. I would get that little giddy feeling of like, oh. you
Well, then
know.
I'll make sure I say your name on the radio next time I'm on the radio.
Speaking of
I hear you say it, and I do get that feeling.
speaking of hearing your name, do you remember Gene's story time in Omaha?
Gene's story time?
You don't?
No.
Oh man. Okay, so on Sunday mornings for Gene's story time, I don't even remember what Gene's last name was. It was some local TV station, and all the kids that watched would draw pictures that corresponded to the story that they were going to read next week. And then as she told the story, she would follow along all the pictures that you would mail in, and then you
yeah.
got to see your name in the credits go by at the end. So.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I'm just echoing that. Yeah, it's a big deal to see your name or to hear your name on the air. It goes a
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yeah. So one of the things, in preparation to have you on TRILLOQUY, Scott and I were talking about the idea of being yourself behind the microphone and, the challenges. And, way back in Opus 2, Scott, I talked with Katie and Delaney, shout out to them, about code switching.
Right.
And this is kind of a version of that. Maybe not code switching rooted in culture or race, but code switching rooted in tradition and expectation. The idea that because we're on C24, we're hosts for APM, there's a sound that we're supposed to have, and you can speak more to that because you've been doing this for longer.
Mm-hmm. What would you like to know?
I mean,
what opinion do you need?
I mean, when you got into radio, surely there was, certainly when you were doing classical radio, there was an expectation for you to sound a certain way. And I don't know how to describe that certain way, but.
Right, you're right. And I think that it was something that I put on myself. I think that I was.
So you think we apply it to ourselves? You think it's not.
Well, in 1987, 1988, when I did my first classical shift, yeah, I thought that there was a certain cloud around classical music, right, Melissa? It's very fine.
Just quick point, the birth of his classical radio career and the birth of two classical hosts of the future.
I know.
Amen.
Wow, such synergy that we're finding today.
I love how that lines up.
Yeah. So, no, I think that was something that I thought everything had to be very proper, very stuffed shirt, very,
And even just talking about that was.
Right.
And just feeling like you need to say, I don't know, put too much into it, I guess.
So now take that idea. Garrett, you've been doing this for 3.5 years now, and you've been at it for, refresh my memory, how long, Melissa?
5.5.
Okay. So imagine being 30 years deep and trying to look at your style and go, okay, I need to make some changes in order to talk to the people who are listening to this now. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's like giving up smoking after 30 years. You're going to have some trouble.
Sure.
So that's what I'm wrestling with. What do you experience? Do you feel like do you feel like when you go into the studio, does a different personality
professional
come in?
Melissa? Because in the Black community, sometimes we say, I speak English and job interview.
Right.
So do you feel like you go into speaking job interview when you go into the control room?
Yeah, I think it's taken me a lot. I'm a lot more aware of things that I do, just in general. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. And I don't know if you guys have ever had someone tell you like how you could be better or this or that's, like a listener or someone who's, but some people think like, well, it should be easy. Yeah. So, and people who do it. And I just think a lot of us have I have a lot of ideas and I try to get them all out at once sometimes. And I'm like, no. So
focusing thought and focusing your point, is a skill in what we do because you only have 20 seconds sometimes or 30 seconds to kind of tell a story. And,
Yeah, but I guess just because of tradition and how it's always been done, we're supposed to feel like maybe we're going to be judged if
it's like an extension of the concert hall, right?
Yeah,
if you're not doing Brahms like Brahms intended it, then you're up for ridicule.
But the fundamental difference is that when I go on stage and play Brahms, I'm probably playing the bassoon part to Brahms's Third Symphony better than anyone in the room could possibly, Behind the microphone, people speak English, so they have the opportunity to say to have a comment about your grammar or about even your facts or the sound of your voice or whatever.
Yeah.
I want to shout out Julie, our manager, C24 manager. One of the things, we have weekly air checks with her where, we bring in excerpts of what we've said on the radio. We kind of talk about it. I kind of see it as a weekly lesson, like, going to your bassoon lesson, your guitar lesson.
Of course they can.
I love it.
Sometimes I just float above and it's like a spiritual little moment. And I'm wondering, like, when things come out, I'm listening to how I say certain things and maybe what was going on in my mind. And then I learn a little bit more about myself.
And then getting that expert pair of ears on top of that.
Yeah. Is there an insecurity somewhere? And why did I say it like this? And why wasn't I thinking about emphasizing here? And it's humbling in a way for me still, but because if I asked my boss for feedback, he would just hear it in his office, and we had a great relationship. We had a lot of fun, but he'd be like, "You'll just keep getting better with time," and I'm like,
that's sort of a backhanded compliment, isn't it?
Or that's I'm not sure what to say, so I'll pretend that I'm doing an air check. No shade to him because I don't know him, but
Right.
you know, with Julie, she every time there's something to talk about, and it's not a you need to say it like this or whatever. It's more of a what do you think it means for you to say it like that, or who are you talking to, or that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And
Yeah,
in
exactly.
in the process of that, in the you know when Julie and I would talk, you know, it got to the point where she was saying, okay, so what we just listened to, say what you just said.
I know.
And I would say it, and it would sound like I'm talking right now. And that is more
Mm-hmm.
of what she wanted to hear
Right.
over the air on the, you know, on the actual, you know, official classical, the C-24, you know, airshifts.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when TRILLOQUY started and Julie was listening to that, she was like, okay, yeah, you need to sound more like that. But it's hard to be like, all right, y'all, listen, this is Brahms' Third Symphony, blah, 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 you know, because, you know, there's a different sort of feeling I want to put forward overnight, you know, so,
Yeah.
so that's one thing, but yeah, just the idea of getting out of sounding official or sounding like NPR or whatever, you know, is really a challenge to have to try to overcome. It's something we actively think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to be thinking about when you go on air, and I'm trying to actively think about my breathing, and
Yeah.
because
Isn't it
it's
amazing,
important.
though, all of us coming from small stations, isn't it amazing to be able to come to a place like this where you can focus like this, to think about
Yes,
how
it's
thoughtful
great.
you can be on the air without having to worry about every other aspect of getting up to that position. I'm curious where you would like to take it. What change? Okay, so I'm almost 50, and I'm doing what I can to try to speak to. You know, we're starting to get more 35 plus listeners, so more people in our age group here sitting around the table. So what do you have an idea of what you would do to reach out to them if you could? Like if you didn't have to worry about alienating a base.
I mean, I programmed, obviously, when I was music director, there was more classical guitar music programmed.
Duh.
I mean, that's just going to happen. Sorry. Plus, we're in the Midwest. I know what I knew the audience and how far it reached. So I knew they were going to like it. And, you know, there's that one person who doesn't like classical guitar, or, you know, the two or couple people. But I would expand that a little bit, because I really appreciate the banjo, and how like its origins started in Africa. And if you can just think about that and think about all the places it's expanded, you know, because when I was in school, it wasn't a huge university, but they didn't care about the guitar department. It wasn't important.
Right.
It wasn't an important instrument. You could be part of the orchestra playing Vivaldi or Boccherini or something, but other than that, they just didn't quite take the department seriously.
Yeah, I remember too.
And I always thought it was a great gateway for someone to start, because, you know, obviously I played folk music, and then I studied classical, and then I started listening to string quartets and Dvorak and then symphonies. So it just kind of expanded from there. So I would want to kind of take those traditional folk songs, pieces from all over the world, and then try to expand.
Stylistically, what do you think would have to happen to have you not flip that switch when you go in to go and do professional Melissa? What would it take to have this sort of interaction that we're having right now? I mean, I'm curious from both of you. You know, like how can we get there? How do we steer this more towards this sort of conversational, less stuff shirt, but not alienating, you know, the bass?
Yeah, I mean, I want to put a pin in some of the guitar stuff you were talking about, because I want to get back to that. But as far as, you know, changing the sound, I think it has a lot to do with just having the courage to, with just getting over, you know, getting over your own fear. And, you know, especially someone like me, I don't know how many other times, you know, classical listeners have heard somebody black on the radio, you know? So that in itself is coming with a new set of ideas and a new set of experiences on my end, which play into the way I think about classical music. So there are certain things that, you know, I guess my point is there are certain things that are just going to be there anyway, but the next step is to not shy away from it, to really dig into who you are and what your experiences are, despite the fact that they run against what came before. And you know that doesn't speak against what came before, because you know, there's something really charming about really listening back to those old school like radio hosts, and especially some of the classical radio hosts. But you know, the world looks different today, and the people who create classical music, the people who host it, and the people who listen to it, you know, we all look different, and why not just, you know, dig into that?
Yeah. I mean, they use electronics. They electrify their instruments. They just add.
No, we're not going to
that-
do any auto tune breaks, or maybe that's an idea.
Some pianists are adding electronics to their, you know, compositions, like something along the lines of a Chopin or Philip Glass. They're adding weird technical stuff that I don't know how to do, but
And I don't even want to call it weird, because I just want to call it what it is. It's music, you know, and that's what
Yeah,
it is, you know.
and it's beautiful, and it's what's happening today. I haven't, you know, those kind of piano pieces or quartets. I would add that kind of stuff to the playlist. That's what's happening now.
So you want to talk about the playlist. Okay, so let's talk about the playlist. So you already said that you programmed a lot of like classical guitar
I
at
couldn't
KVNO.
overdo it. Even my boss at the beginning was like, "Hey, there were 2 classical guitar pieces in the morning show." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
I mean, but was
They
that
were-
the general aesthetic? What would you say at KVNO was your general philosophy as far as the aesthetic of, let's say, your afternoon show? What did you generally want it to sound like, and what did you want people's when I say their relationship with it, like what do you think? How do you think about your playlist at KVNO in the afternoon impacting someone's life? So this isn't a time when someone's trying to take a nap, maybe, or whatever. But you know, how are you wanting people to really interact with your sound that you were wanting to create?
Well, like I have a window piece. I think I told you that the other day, and there was
You said it would be a cold start, so not a
cold open. So yeah, I'd like to program. I mean, of course, I would do the occasional overture, but like I like flute and guitar duos, and I would just try to get that interesting piece that they hadn't heard, or maybe it was a cover of a pop tune on guitar or piano, something
that's fun.
something that you couldn't figure out right away. And then I was on at 3, and I would get feedback from parents too, and classical kids, so I always tried to imagine like what people were doing at 3:15. They're picking up their kids. They're
Right.
probably talking about their day. Maybe they are tuning into the radio. And so I'd always want to play like a newer 21st century string quartet or something that might get their imagination peaked
get the
at
kids'
that,
imagination going.
at
Yeah.
that kind of day. Play some film music. There's new film music. I don't run into a whole lot of film music, but I think it's a really good opportunity.
It's really cool that, you know, all in all, you're always thinking about those youngsters, those kids, and how they can interact with it. You know, for me, I think a lot about just dispelling. And I definitely, you know, anybody that listened to me in Knoxville can tell you my thing was getting rid of the oral assumption of classical music, quote unquote. So I made sure a lot of the stuff that I played fell outside of what people would traditionally think about hearing when they turned on the classical radio station. And I'm really dedicated to that as time goes on, because you know, we were just talking about how audiences, the music creators, the music itself sounds and looks different these days. Whose job is it to keep that progression going is us, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my spiel on it anyway.
Do you two feel like you need to have?
But before you ask a question, I want you to answer that question. What is, maybe not what was your programming philosophy at KVNO, since it's been so long, you've been here for over a decade, but on the conversation of like pushing the needle and the aesthetic of what classical radio is, what is your idea? What are your goals on that front?
It was, each morning was sort of like a walk through musical styles. I tended to load the Baroque pretty heavy early on. And
this is in Omaha.
Right. And then, by the time we hit 9:30, I was into Romantic and 20th century stuff. It was sort of, I was following a philosophy that somebody had used beforehand. But if you ask me now, looking back at it, I cringe because I played a lot of what you would consider like the poppy sort of stuff, Quartetto Gelato, Charlotte Church.
Are you dragging right now? Wow.
Am I wrong?
I saw Charlotte Church in the library, but
I like
never...
Quartetto Gelato.
No, but what I'm saying is that a lot of the people who were the bass, the traditionalists, they looked at that as a watering down. And yeah, Andrea Bocelli too.
Okay.
That they, he does. He's a great performer, but a lot of the listenership that I had looked at that down. They looked down their nose at that. Why are you playing this bubblegum stuff? Why can't we have more of the such as? And I was trying to sort of spread out the interest.
Sure.
I guess. And,
sure.
Refresh me of the question so that I can answer it.
Or just the idea behind what you want the experience of listening to classical radio to be. And I'll also offer this. So at my show at WUOT, every day was themed, every single show. So,
yeah, I didn't do that.
So sometimes it was very broad. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking about pieces of and Melissa, you're all about the visuals. So I would do a show about color. So I would have Christopher Theophanidis's Rainbow Body. Mm-hmm. Maybe I would do Rhapsody in Blue, or every piece of music will have a color in it. Or I would do. One of my most legendary shows was on the day of the Comey hearings. I did Russian collusion in American classical music. So Russian composers or Russian music that played an important role in American classical music culture, with the biggest example being Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture. A piece of music we hear every 4th of July, but what does that have to do with America? Oh, it's
Cannons.
Russian collusion. Anyway, so thinking about the experience in that way. So I guess that's more of what I was asking you, what you want their experience to be.
And that is something that I relied on because I'm unlike you two, I don't have the classical training in music. This medium is the instrument. It's broadcasting, it's storytelling, and that's the sort of thing that I was trying to rely on. And I was trying to take the morning show at KVNO in a different direction because the two guys that had it prior to me had both retired from other broadcasting careers, and this was something cute for them to do, it seemed. And I wanted to try to draw in younger listeners, and to me that meant playing bands like Quartetto Gelato that they might actually have a chance of hearing other than in a classical music setting. They might hear it on television or something.
You're hitting on a couple things because first of all, well, I'm going to scribble it down so that we don't forget, because when you talk about that classical training that we, come from, I think that informs our perspective in different ways. But before we jump on that, you said, getting in the younger listeners with the music. And I think that has an important part of it. But I think that companionship is also an important component because, it's our job to also, as much as we love talking about new music, it's also our job to make Beethoven 5 sound interesting, right? And I feel like you can pull in whatever audience you want, as long as it's relevant, as long as it relates.
Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata is relevant and it's one of my favorite pieces. And I got a comment the other day. So there are still like these staple pieces that I just think belong.
No doubt, but
But
wouldn't you like to tell a different story about a new composer, perhaps somebody that's living?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you like
Yeah.
to tell that story too?
yeah,
That's
I
all I'm
would.
saying is that, I've talked about Royal Fireworks music enough, or the water music, or and I'm not just bashing Handel. I'm saying that there are plenty of spaces where something along that caliber can take a seat on the bench while we play 10 or 15 minutes of something new.
Yeah,
That's my thought.
Yeah. I scribbled down here the classical training, so I want to talk about that for a minute. So, Melissa, you're a classically trained guitarist, and I'm sure that plays a big role into that sort of classical aesthetic. That you're interested in and that you want to put forward. For me, being a wind player and being from the South, in a weird way, in the South, band and wind ensemble is just a much bigger thing. Just like here in Minnesota, how choral music is really, it's just how a regionalism like that. Anyway, so because of the nature of what wind band music is, I came up playing contemporary music most of the time, and of course I played in orchestras where you got some of the contemporary or some of the traditional repertoire in, but there were just sounds that were introduced to me so early in my training that it's hard for me to think of something as avant-garde or left field, because it just sounds normal to my ear. Do you experience any of that? Do you feel like there's genres that you understand too well, or genres you don't have your ear on so much due to that classical training?
That there are other genres that I don't listen to. Is that what you're asking?
Maybe that, or I guess, in a nutshell, how did your classical training impact your ear, impact the way you think about the sound of classical music, what you think of when you even say the phrase classical music? How did your classical training impact that?
Oh, yeah. Probably when I was like in theory and they wanted us to analyze like fugues. That kind of blew my mind. I didn't
Music theory blew your mind. Good for you. Amen.
well, I had tutors.
Oh, I
I had
see.
tutors.
See,
So
to
I
me,
was
that sounds. Did you, Scott? Did you have to diagram sentences in school?
Yep.
That's what music theory feels like to me. When you have to do the keyboard and the 4-part analysis and all that, that feels like diagramming a sentence to me. You can do it, but it's not fun. But it was
no.
fun to you.
No, it wasn't fun to
Oh,
me. I'm saying that's the stuff that I was like, what? Like I didn't know. I wasn't looking or thinking about it like that.
oh,
So
I see. Okay, yeah.
I guess I that was intimidating, but reading music and playing the guitar was the really fun part. And obviously.
Oh God, shoot
So
me now.
I
Is guitar your first instrument?
my first instrument was flute
Okay.
in middle school. And
So you
then
knew how to. So you learned how to read music earlier.
yeah, and I
Oh,
played
yeah.
it on our piano at home. I just had a Disney book, so I would just plunk out melodies. And so keyboard, I picked that up easily. Like the performance stuff, I was good at. But I guess I wasn't taking that at the right angle. But at first, like knowing that that's how people saw it, that was eye opening to me.
Oh, I see.
I was like, oh, I wasn't thinking about it in that structure. But
In a left-brained way.
yeah. So I really liked the Brazilian and the Cuban music because it was just so free and
What got you
open.
into that?
Probably when I played like Leo Brower, he has those
Shout out
simple
to him. Yeah,
etudes.
Afro-Cuban composer. Yeah.
I was working on the
Living.
first 5 for the longest time.
His music didn't they don't have many markings on it. It's just kind of open to your interpretation.
But did you just happen
I-
upon that music, or
No, my professor.
okay?
He has his office full. It was not organized.
And
You would
shout
just
him
dig
out. Who was
around
that?
Hadley Haven.
Oh, hey, Professor
Yeah.
Haven.
So he preferred that we called him Hadley,
Okay.
but he would show up in jeans and a plaid shirt, his cowboy boots.
And
So-
y'all will play some guitar.
But I think that changed my perspective, just the way it moved, just, obscure chords or thinking about diminished chords. Like, it kind of opened my mind up to using different little sounds and dissonances
So-
in the rock and roll music that I heard and that I liked. I was like, oh, there's like these possibilities, and playing like finger picking with nails and doing that as opposed to like a pick was so much more comfortable.
Now, I wonder though, when I think about a classical guitarist, I think about all of those, countless Bach cantatas or whatever that fill all of those etude books.
Chaconnes, yeah.
Yes, all of that. Was that not a part of? Do you not consider that a fundamental part of your training?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. The Bach, when I played the Prelude to Bach's Cello Suite #1, and my professor was like, when you can play an entire Bach cello suite, that's when you know that
you've made it.
that you've made it, because it's, and I opened up my senior recital with the Prelude and the Allemande, and like it gave me a run for my money.
Okay,
Your
but-
brain.
But is it the guitar transcriptions of Bach, what you would put on the radio before a Tarrega or a Leo Brouwer composition or a Machado like we performed? Why is the more Latin music more interesting to you? Despite the fact that both of those genres have equal, from my perspective, equal footing in your development as a guitarist.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I just thought
It just tastes better.
it just
say
tastes better. Their culture, it just seemed more open.
No shade. I
It's-
feel like somebody's going to be upset and send an email about that. But it's
When has that ever bothered you before?
Throw shade about what?
it's hard to dismiss, the 17th, 18th century European music, but there's just something intrinsically more contemporarily interesting about some of that Spanish and Latin guitar music.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to put into words. But, I also had a professor from that studied in Spain and had those stories. So it kind of became, that was part of my education. And that was just like so interesting and intriguing to me.
A lot of people would give me a hard time for liking the Danzas Españolas by Granados. And because it's so, it's the eine kleine Nachmusik of guitar music. And and you know what? They're great.
They are.
And
I mean,
everybody can enjoy them front to back.
Yeah,
I used to have them playing for when I would walk in from work, and it's just nice to walk into your house and feel, sort of a low guitar
if I
playing in
wake
the
up on
background.
Saturday morning and put on like Andres Segovia radio station and just,
It's perfect.
yeah, it is.
And I really love some of those contemporary guitar concertos. I'm not going to think of.
Leo Brouwer had a few recently,
Yeah.
and they went over really well.
And there are even some
on-
for electric guitar that I think work, and it's not all about bringing rock to the orchestra, but
Yeah,
some of them really work.
Daniel Hope did an album a couple years ago, and he did Amazing Grace with an electric guitarist.
Yeah.
and I
Judd
wasn't
Greenstein?
allowed to play it.
And then, of course, you
I-
had Rodrigo and all of the things he did for classical guitar, and the Concerto Aranjuez. I
Yeah.
called it the Orange Juice Concerto one time on the radio, and somebody got mad.
What? Oh.
We should.
Oh, he would see. Those composers would love that joke. They would laugh and they would cheers you.
I think so because we would cheers with orange juice to the Aranjuez Concerto.
Can we get back
What was
into that about the perception of the way that it needs to be presented, and maybe adding a little bit of irreverence here, like we're talking about, and not get called to the carpet by an email or a phone call?
To be fair, I put it on Scott. I think in the break I was like, I have a colleague who sometimes calls that the orange juice concerto, but it's actually the Aranjuez Concerto. So I snitched on you, really.
Actually, it's Aranjuez.
Okay, thank you. I'm always looking. you and all of the other people sending me emails.
Why is it that you can correct me, and then whenever I come back with something, you treat me like, okay, boomer. All right, buddy. Yeah, whatever.
I'm just joking with you, Scott. You know that.
Mm-hmm. So can we talk? Let's talk a little bit about that mixing. What we feel like we can get away with, because you commented once hanging out in the studio. You heard me say Wolfgang rather than Wolfgang on the air, and you said I would get emails.
Well, I'll tell you, Melissa. So one of my early emails at man, and we're going to read some emails in a minute, but one of my early emails was I guess I said Johann Sebastian Bach. And I've already gotten good at the Bach because folks will ride you for that, But someone, it wasn't even an email; it was posted to the Music Through the Night Facebook page. And to be fair, it wasn't pointed like some of the emails can be, but she was basically like, pronounce it this way. So now I say Johann Sebastian Bach for all of the Bach fans.
I had someone in Omaha. There was a coffee shop owner, and he had the hip coffee shop next to the university where the station was, and there was a regular there, and we became friends. But
Scooters?
Huh?
Was it Scooters?
Blue Line.
Oh, okay, cool.
So he was like, you don't say like Hector Villalobos. Like that's like, but most people don't say Villalobos.
Right,
because they just don't feel comfortable. They just say Villalobos. Even though it's Villalobos. And
I feel
like,
vindicated, thank you, because that's how I've been saying it.
Villalobos is what we should
Villalobos.
say. Okay. All right, well, I'll start saying that.
And he's like, but I don't like when people say Bach. I was like, but like that's one of those names that I feel like I should say Johann Sebastian Bach. But I don't want to say George Frideric. Like some people are really picky about Handel. It's like Handel.
Yep.
It's not Handel. It's Handel. I'm like,
Handel.
I feel, yeah.
Can I share
Handel. Yeah. It's like, I don't feel, but I feel comfortable. I don't know.
Garrett and I already had this conversation, but at KVNO when I was doing the mornings and during an air check, I was told, I know that the correct pronunciation is Mendelssohn, but everybody else on staff says Mendelssohn. And so we want you to change to match what everybody else is saying.
This is so pedantic. I'm getting pissed off listening to this conversation because
I just was like, this guy's annoyed now that I'm saying Bach correctly.
I mean, and it's just, and look, I'm not trying to look, I love all sorts of feedback, but sometimes it can really be frustrating to get the emails that read, with this sort of stuff.
Do you have
and then
any
you have
idea
to get,
what's going on
and then
right
you have
now?
to get in, into the, and I had to get rude a little bit with somebody in Knoxville, because every day it was something else. And basically I had to tell him, look, do you think that I just can't do my job? And it comes up when you get into the politics of some of the and the way some of these people wanted their names pronounced or the false cognates. So the big example is Alberto Ginastera. Okay,
that's another one. Yeah.
So a lot of people expect it to be Ginastera, which I guess it would be phonetically, but if you've been to music school and learned about him and his heritage and how he preferred his name, pronounced blah blah blah, you can have the same. There's a composer. His name is I forget his first name, Francois, but shoot, I'm embarrassed by that. But his last name is Francais, but I learned Francais. Mm-hmm. What's the man's first name? I forget.
Jean-Francais.
Jean-Francais is how I learned to say his name because he was from the Aix-en-Provence or something.
Right, but too many people clutch at pearls when you say sex on the air.
But anyway, you could get into that all day. Boulez. People expect that to be Boulez.
I made a promo on KVNO, and my dad was an older gentleman at the coffee shop, and we were having a conversation, and I told him to say Debussy, and he did, and it was funny. We thought it was funny because some people say Debussy instead of Debussy. It just comes out that way for some people, and I'm just.
But who cares? Is my point. Does it matter?
I don't care.
It goes back to tone that line.
And I get respecting the composer's legacy and all that. Look, I'm not trying to disrespect a lot of these. Some of them I am, but but we're not like Camille Saint-Saëns.
Oh gosh.
People will get so bent out of shape about
They
that,
will.
and it's not like we're trying to disrespect his legacy if someone says Camille Saint-Saëns or whatever.
I know.
But y'all, I'm not going to get on that soapbox. We've been talking for a while here. If you're still listening, thank you. You know, just
We got a check coming your way soon.
Just three hosts, just kind of shooting the ish about what it means to be a classical radio host. Melissa, your journey here. We're going to wrap up this opus with a recording of a piece of music by an Afro-Brazilian composer that you introduced me to. You know, we already laid out how much you love the Latin and South American and Spanish guitar music. When did you first learn of this composer, Celso Machado?
Oh, a couple months ago.
Oh, so semi-recently. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you come across him?
YouTube. I had seen.
Shout out to YouTube, man.
Yeah, I had just seen people uploading their performances, you know, their recitals, and then there's some of his recordings. I don't even think they're like the full. I just found some random recordings because my friends were giving me some of those. They were giving me suggestions, and I was like, "Gosh, I want to find some duet music, like we were talking about." It was just something that I gravitated towards, like falling into any type of new artist. And then I found out he was 60 and
alive and well.
Yeah, alive and well. And I
that-
was like, this is really beautiful. This is something that I would love. You know, those little exciting moments about getting an album in the mail at work, and it's not someone doing Mahler's symphony again or the Shostakovich
And
with
again,
whoever.
no shade, but you know,
there-
this
those
is
will
somebody
come-
alive and well who we need to celebrate and who people need to know about.
Yeah, and there were, so I would always kind of try to find those gems and play those at work. And I had remembered a duo that I always played in Omaha, and then I found out he had all of this great stuff. I was like, cool. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something for me, I instantly was just like, wow.
And it was a joy to play it with you. You know, Scott, we had originally planned on me just, you know, it's a piece for, you know, what we did for guitar and flute. Originally, I was just going to play the flute line on bassoon because, you know, bassoon is my, you know, strongest instrument and, you know, I wouldn't really have to think much about it. But Melissa, you know, when you came over for us to play through it a couple times, the spirit of it just felt a little better on flute. And, you know, I've played flute all my life, but it's sometimes I feel a little naked playing the flute. It's not my principal instrument, you know, not doing what you're best at. But I really appreciate your exposing me to that piece of music, to this composer. I gave him a shout out on my website, on my weekly shout out.
Oh, yay.
Definitely check out Celso Machado, Celso, and his last name is Machado. You'll hear my and Melissa's rendition of one of his tunes at the end of this opus. But before we get there, Scott, we're going to go into the mailbag a little bit. You know, we talked about feedback and the way people get into the way we pronounce things. So are we going to share one of the nice emails or one of the people who are upset? I'll leave it up to y'all. What do y'all want to do?
I have a nice one.
Okay, then we'll read nice ones.
I'll start with
nice
a nice one if you'd like. It's short and sweet.
Yeah, go for it.
Melissa, just a quick note that I've stumbled across you a couple times on WOSU in Columbus, Ohio. You have a fabulous honor delivery and communicate in a completely unpretentious way. That's a rarity and so refreshing. Best of luck to you and hope to hear from you often. Cheers.
So what did reading that mean to you in the moment?
Oh my gosh. I was like, well, I'm always a little like surprised. I'm like, wait, what? I felt like there's a listener who gets my personality and knows what I'm trying to do.
Someone you connected with, someone you had real engagement with.
Yeah.
And that's the power of what we do, the honor that we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like that's a long one there. Is that a long one?
I'll paraphrase.
Okay.
I just wanted to say hi to you tonight for a change because every now and then I hear you when I tune into classical NPR. Not going to say where he's from. I appreciate your radio station. I also wanted to personally express to you that you're a good announcer, and I always have to perk my ears up when listening to you. Tonight, case in point, when you announced Ravel's Sentimental Waltz and talked about Ravel's longing for the old Strauss waltzes. I like the way you put it. Nostalgia isn't what it used to be.
No.
That's sweet. Okay, so my message, I got off work one morning and it was, me getting off night 4 of 4. So it was a Saturday morning, like 6:30. I am just feeling exhausted, but too tired to be sleepy, but then also doubting whether or not what I did even mattered. Do I want to keep doing this? This was several months ago. And then I got this through the mail. It says, thank you for joining the folks at your station. My husband died over a year ago and my sleeping has been erratic. Your warm, knowledgeable, enthusiastic voice has brought me calm and comfort. This email comes from a decades-long vow. Rather than complaining, I try to find and focus on people doing good work and thank them, and when possible, inform a superior. If there is someone I should tell, let me know. Okay, so you hear this, Julie and Brian? I'm for real. If you want confirmation, ask Michael Barone about me. I've known him for decades, and I know good listening when I hear it. I'm paraphrasing here because some of this is, I don't want to get teared up. Thank you very much, Garrett McQueen, for making my life a better one. And,
Yep.
The point she made, what hit most with me was the point she made about being grateful and letting people know that you appreciate them and all that stuff. And Scott, we talked about that back in the Opus where we were honoring Bob Christensen, just talking to, being grateful and appreciative in so many things. And look, sometimes I need the correction. Sometimes I'll say a date wrong or pronounce something wrong, and that's fine. I get a lot of notes from folks with corrections that come from a good spirit, and I really love that. And then I'm not saying you need to use kid gloves with me or anything, but it's so easy to get caught up in okay, the anxiety of here's 15 emails that I need to read. How many of these people are cussing me out, and then get in the one email, where, you really, again, had an impact with someone. So, shout out to everyone who listens, I won't speak for y'all, but for me, it is an honor for me to be in countless people's lives and, to try to share my love for this music with them. It's an honor, but also a responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for rambling here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How can people find out more about you, and how can they participate in some of the initiatives that you got going here at APM?
In some of the initiatives?
Yeah, like with your classical, with your kids show on Saturday mornings and all that.
Yeah, that's Saturday mornings on Minnesota Public Radio and your classical. So
Yep.
I guess I'll kind of be giving some shout outs there about my Instagram and what I have planned for.
Oh, so Melissa said you got to listen to find out.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
So 8 a.m. on 8 a.m. Central on Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then is there any place that people can go to hear some more of your guitar playing or any of that?
Yeah, I have music on SoundCloud. It's just under my name, so I've got some stuff there. Then hopefully be adding some new stuff to it soon. So
Okay, yeah. And Scott, thank you again for setting up Studio B here. It's very comfortable, feels very homey in here. I could sit here and chat all night with my cupcake here.
Well, maybe that'll be the next iteration of TRILLOQUY. It'll be the 3-hour-long actual conversation. Maybe some video, because we do have video of you and Melissa playing that Machado on TRILLOQUY.org. And also, that is a great place for you. Talk about reaching out. That's a great place for you to reach
with
out.
all of your complaints.
Right.
I mean, your meanest note.
So just send it to TRILLOQUY at AmericanPublicMedia.org. And you can also find us on YouTube. Just search for TRILLOQUY there. If you're listening to this on iTunes or whatever, just give us a rating and a like.
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
like that.
So, Melissa, of course, a big part of our job when we're hosting classical radio is to kind of set the mood for what they're about to hear or say something about it. So, to transition us into our performance of this piece of music by Celso Machado, how about you give us the break? How would you introduce this to new audiences?
wow. Well, I'd say it is a sassy Brazilian tune, something that you can listen to with the windows down on a nice day. That's something I picture. And yeah, it's kind of like candy. It's just fun.